Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's Down and Dirty is one that I can't believe we haven't covered yet. It's a request from you guys. It's kind of give us an overview of basic equipment. As someone that's new to the industry or just someone that's curious about what we do in this field, what is all of this equipment and what is it used for? So without further ado, let's get right into it. And I'm going to thank my 6-year-old son for letting me borrow some of his toys so that we can do this. One of the most common machines that you're going to see all over the place that you've probably seen before is this guy right here. And this is what we call a skid steer. And no, that's not supposed to come off, but it is what it is. This is what happens when you use your 6-year-old's toy. Now, skid steers are really commonplace because they're super versatile. These things turn by spinning in circles because you don't have any steering other than which direction the wheels are rotating. But that lets you do some really cool stuff. They also have a really small footprint, which is why you're going to see skid steers a lot of times on landscape crews and small projects where you don't have a lot of room. Now, there's another type of skid steer, this guy right here, and you're going to notice the main difference is these tracks. Technically, if we want to be accurate, this is a skid steer. This is what we call a CTL or a compact track loader. Now, commonplace on the job, you're going to hear both of these interchanged and called skid steers all the time. But if you want to be accurate or if you want to differentiate between the two, this is a compact track loader or a CTL. It's going to be used for essentially the same purposes as a skid steer. One huge advantage of the CTL, there's two actually, is you have lower ground pressure, which means this thing, because you have the weight of the machine across this whole track, instead of these 4 points where your tires touch, this machine doesn't put as much weight in one spot on the ground, so you can get through muddy conditions a lot easier in a CTL than you can a skid steer. The other big advantage is because you have a rigid track base and you're spreading that ground pressure out, these are generally going to have a higher lifting capacity. You can hold more stuff with a CTL than you can a skid steer. Now, one disadvantage to this is the upkeep. An undercarriage, which is all of these rollers and the sprocket and the track itself, is significantly more expensive to maintain than wheels on a skid steer. The other disadvantage is when you're doing turns on hard surfaces like asphalt or concrete, you're going to chew through those tracks a lot quicker than you would with a wheeled skid steer. And that's why it's common to see asphalt companies and companies that are doing a lot of sidewalk work, stuff like that, they're going to go for the wheeled skid steer over the CTL. Now, the next machine I want to get into is one that probably grandpappy's had sitting around, we're all familiar with. That's the old backhoe. This is a tried and true machine. This has been around in the industry for a very long time, and it's still fairly commonplace. But over time, we're starting to replace this machine with skid steers coupled with mini excavators, and we'll get into excavators here in just a minute. Now, the advantage of a backhoe is it's a self-contained unit. We can carry and lift material with the front bucket. You can also get these equipped with forks with what we call a quick coupler, which means you can switch without getting out of the cab necessarily. And then you also have the back arm, so we can do some trenching. We can do all sorts of things where we're digging and you're able to move yourself around with this back arm. So it's a versatile machine in the capabilities that it gives you, but, and this is where I'm going to get some arguments in the comments. I'm talking to you, Frank, over there at Digging OK. If you haven't checked out his channel, go do it. Great. The problem is it's kind of that phrase, jack of all trades, master of none. Most people in the industry will agree that the backhoe is very versatile because it has the front and the back bucket. The problem is it doesn't excel at digging trenches because you also have this giant monster machine attached to it. It doesn't excel at carrying loads around because you also have this big arm hanging off of the back, which messes with your weight. It's a very bouncy ride. It does both of those things pretty well, but not great. Versus if we take a skid steer and we combine it with a mini excavator, most of the time you can be more efficient with those two machines than this machine can be by itself. One other thing I wanted to call attention to are these guys right here. These are called the outriggers, and those are simply there because these rubber tires are very bouncy, and so as soon as you start using your back arm, this thing can get a little wobbly, so these stabilizers go down, and it is very rigid points. You actually lift your tires off of the ground, and you've got a very firm base that you can now use to dig off of. So that is the backhoe. Next, we're going to move into excavators. Now, this is a mama of an excavator. This is a 50-ton machine. This is not a small excavator, but the cool thing is these guys go really big all the way up to mining excavators. but they also go small. We can get all the way down to a 3.5 ton machine, which is very small. It looks like you're sitting on a micro machine, and you can get in really tight spots. Now, the advantage of having a dedicated excavator over our backhoe is these suckers have power. You have generally 2 hydraulic pumps that are dedicated to making this thing move. And because of the configuration, if you notice here, this boom attaches almost at the center point of the machine, which means we have a lot of leverage. That's why you have these 2 big lifting cylinders here. We have a lot of leverage. These machines can carry a tremendous amount of weight. If you actually look at the lifting charts of excavators, even a small mini excavator, if you could get a car in tight enough to it, a small mini excavator could lift the weight of a car. When you really start looking at the forces these excavators can apply, it's actually pretty mind-blowing. That's the advantage of having a dedicated unit. The other huge advantage is the backhoe. We're limited to kind of this area of swing off of the back of the machine, and that's as far as we can place material. If we want to move, generally speaking, you have to lift your outriggers. You got to lift your front bucket because you also put your front bucket down when you're digging to stabilize the machine. You're going to lift all of that. We're going to drive forward a little bit. Then you're going to reset. It's very time consuming. Now, operators that get good, they'll lift their front bucket and then they'll push themselves along with the back arm. That's fine. But again, you're pretty limited there. Versus a machine is literally a mobile arm. We can swing the machine 360 degrees, which gives us much more reach and range for placing the material we're digging. You have a lot more depth because of the size of the arm that's coming off of it. This is just a much more effective digging tool for moving a lot of material in a trenching situation or loading a truck situation. These are very, very efficient machines. So this is the excavator. You're going to see it all over the place. Now I want to get into this guy. We're all familiar with this guy, right? But I've got 2 versions so that we can talk about the differences. This is a bulldozer. This is what everybody loves because it pushes a bunch of dirt and they're on tracks so they look like a tank. We love them. Now, why do we have 2 different versions? This is more of a bulking tool. If we need to push a lot of material in a straight line, we're not really worried so much about shaping. We just need to move a lot of dirt. You're going to have a blade setup like this. This is a very effective way to move a lot of dirt. The advantage of bulldozers is this is a dedicated pusher. You're also going to notice, look at the tracks on this unit compared to our excavator tracks. You're going to notice there's quite a bit of difference there, right? These have much more aggressive grousers. Grousers are the actual cleats on the track itself, and that's what's giving us our traction, our pushing power. An excavator, we're really using tracks to get through adverse conditions. We're not so much worried about using that to move something and move a lot of weight. We just want to be able to get the machine around even if we're in a lot of mud. Bulldozers, we need to dig in and we need to grip the ground. And that's where these single bar grousers come in, is you have a lot of power. Now, dozers are heavy machines because at the end of the day, physics is at play here. I have to weigh a lot so that I can push a lot of dirt. So dozers are very heavy machines and they are made to push. Now, where the blade difference comes in is, like we talked about, this is made for bulking. This dozer has what's called a 6-way blade because it can go up and down. It can tilt or angle side to side, and then it can also tilt side to side. So it gives us 6 degrees of movement. Now, these dozers, you're going to notice this blade generally comes on smaller machines. On the really big dozers, you're not going to see 6-way blades because those are made for bulking. These dozers are made for shaping. When we're doing finish grades, when we're doing stuff where we need to finesse the dirt and we need to make it look a certain way, that's where this 6-way blade comes in. Because it is so versatile, you can really put that dirt where you want it and you can really shape a nice slope, whatever you're trying to do. From there, we're going to move into another bulk dirt mover, but this is also a very versatile tool. This is called a wheel loader. And generally, you're going to see these with the bucket on. But this particular model is very well known in the industry for being used on pipe crews. So generally, these are going to be with the bucket, and you're going to use these in quarries and pits where you need to just bulk move a lot of material into trucks. But you need to have the material staged in piles. That's where these guys really excel. If I'm having to dig into the earth, a loader is not going to be the tool to use. You're generally going to fall on your excavator to do that sort of work. A loader is really made for picking up material, taking it from point A to point B. If it's a truck that's nice nearby, that's great. That's what generally you see in a pit application. But also we can take that bucket of material, and without me having to do anything in the cab, if I have my transmission set right, I can zip that down the road at 30 miles an hour. And this thing has got a lot of features that make that a pretty comfortable ride for me. And then we can go dump it wherever we need it. So this is a really, really handy tool for moving a lot of stuff around on the job site. And generally your wheel loader is going to be kind of the job site wheelbarrow. It's how we get a bunch of stuff around quickly because it's just a very efficient tool for that. Now throw on a set of pipe forks, and these are pipe forks. You're going to notice instead of having rigid slots where we lock these forks in, they slide. And what that lets me do as an operator is I can go rub these forks on stuff without getting out of the cab, and I can either shrink the distance between them or I can spread them out to fit whatever I need to do with these forks. That makes this a really versatile tool, and we use this all the time on pipe crews to move our structures around, to move our pipe around. And generally when you get pretty good with these forks, you can do quite a bit of stuff with these machines. Wheel loaders are notorious for everyone thinking they're just oversimplified. You know, it's a boom and a bucket. You can get right in there and just go to town. These are actually really, really easy machines to learn right off the bat, but to really unlock the capabilities, you need a good operator in these, and there is a lot you can do with a loader that you wouldn't think you could. So that is our wheel loader. Now from there, we're going to be moving dirt. We need something to carry that dirt, and that's where we get into these guys. These are our dump trucks. Of course, everybody knows what a dump truck is, right? But what's the difference? This is an on-road dump truck. This is an off-road dump truck, and we'll talk about the differences. An on-road dump truck is made to go, yeah, believe it or not, on the road. This is made to drive down your regular roads, and that's why we have some extra axles here. This particular kind of dump truck is called a tri-axle because it has 3 axles in the back. You can have quad axles, quint axles, and then your common truck down in the south is going to be just a tandem axle is what we call it. You would eliminate this axle here. And essentially these are made to go down the road. They don't have aggressive tires on them. We have tarps so that we can cover the load because that is a requirement from the Department of Transportation. There are a lot of features built into this truck to protect the roads and keep the load safe while it is in traffic. You're also going to notice the size difference. Look at the size difference between these two trucks. This truck is going to be significantly smaller and lighter than our off-road truck. Now let's compare that to our off-road truck. That's a very different looking machine. You're going to notice we've got rotation here and we've got rotation here. This also is going to be 6-wheel drive. This truck is made to go through mud, up hills, down hills, on slopes. This sucker is made to move a crazy amount of material through some very, very harsh conditions. These things drink fuel. They're notorious for it, but they are awesome, awesome machines because of what they can do fully loaded with up to, depending on the truck you have, 60 tons of material in the back of this thing. I mean, it's not like you're hauling a little bit of dirt up these crazy slopes and through these 1-foot deep mud ruts. These things haul a lot of material. And as a result, you're never going to see these on the road. These would absolutely destroy the road. These are very, very heavy trucks, and they're very powerful trucks, but they don't have a high top speed because they're not made to go down the highway. So this is an off-road truck or an articulated dump truck because it articulates in the middle. You'll also sometimes hear these called wiggle wagons because they wiggle, although I've often heard guys call scrapers wiggle wagons, so we're not even going to get into that. But this is an off-road truck or an articulated dump truck. Now, you could also call this guy, instead of just an on-road truck, you could call this a rigid frame dump because it is rigid. You're not going to oscillate or articulate in the middle. It is a rigid frame dump truck. My final machine for you today is the scraper, or what we commonly hear them called in the industry is a pan, because of this bowl here. And essentially the way this works is you have a cutting edge on the front here. You have an apron that lifts up. And what I'm going to do as an operator is I'm going to drive along and I'm going to set this bowl down. And then this cutting edge is going to start digging in. And it's going to, as I drive along, it's going to scrape and fill this bowl area with dirt. And then I can drop this apron and I can raise my bowl up, and then we can clip along at probably 30 to 40 miles an hour with that full load of dirt. This is one of the, assuming site conditions are appropriate for it, this is one of the most efficient ways to move dirt in the industry. It is very hard to beat the production you get out of a fleet of scrapers or pans. This particular one is one of the biggest that Caterpillar makes, and it actually has an engine in the front here and in the rear. Now, a lot of times what you'll have is a loop on the front, and then you'll have a hook on the back. And what happens is these will work in pairs or sometimes even in triplets. One will throw its loop over the hook on the rear of the next one, and they will push and pull each other so that you have two machines working at one time to load this bowl. It's a very, very fast process, and that's why they'll generally hook up. The other thing is what we're seeing here. This is called a push plate, and what we'll use if you don't have machines working together is you'll have a dozer that will come along behind this machine, and it will actually push against this plate and assist in the loading process simply to make it go faster. The newer machines you're going to see come equipped with GPS, some of them if your contractor wants to equip it that way, and that allows the operator in the cab to know where he's at in accordance to the grade he needs to be. So these are really, really cool machines. Like I said, you'll sometimes hear someone refer to these as wiggle wagons as well. Very, very cool machines, but they are a young man's game. These are very, very bouncy rides. They're terrible on your back. They're pretty rough, but they are a lot of fun. So that kind of is my quick summary on equipment in the industry. And I'm going to say this is not an exhaustive list by any means. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of different kinds of equipment out there, each with their own role, each with their own task. But this kind of covers the majority of it. Oh, you know what? We forgot one. My goodness, look at here. It's our friend the roller. This is what most people in the industry, when you get in with a large company, you're going to start on is the roller. And we use this for compaction and flattening things. This is a tandem roller here. The other type where you have a regular set of wheels in the back and then you have the drum up front, we call that a single drum roller. Generally, single drum rollers are going to be used for dirt applications, while your tandem rollers are going to be used for asphalt applications. That's not always a hard and fast rule. There are a lot of companies that once you get your stone down and you have a nice base, then they will switch over to a tandem roller to do the compaction for the stone. But most of the time when you're on clay or your virgin soil, you're going to see a single drum roller. So like I said, that's not an exhaustive list, but that kind of covers, I don't know, probably 70 to 80% of what you're going to see on the side of the road. As always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.